You guys, I bought the most expensive palette in my collection. I have a huge collection, and this is more expensive than Pat McGrath.
This palette better perform.
If you're interested in seeing what I bought, just keep watching. Okay, guys, the palette that I'm talking about is the Lethal Cosmetics Multichrome palette. It looks like this here. And right off the bat, and I already put my fingers in it because I had to just take a peek, but I can already tell that they're not like a solid multichrome. So we're not going to judge it based off of only the swatches. I learned my lesson about that. But for overall, for the most part, we'll be able to see which ones are like multichrome. It was not cheap at all. And more than any other of my palettes in my collection. It's the most expensive one. So I have high expectations for this. So I'm going to swatch and we're going to do a look so that we can get an overall feel of what they look like on the eye. Into the swatches, let's take a look at what they look like on the hand. This one here, it looks like it's a red to black shift. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks more, it's not red to black. That's what it looks like in the pan, but in person, it has a red, orange to maybe like a dark chocolate brown shift. And see, I had a feeling. I had swatched them on my finger. Okay, I built it up. No, ma'am. I like Lethal. Don't get me wrong. I might have to get out Cleona. If you're gonna charge as much as Cleona, like you better bring it, you know, in my book. Okay, I'm really getting nervous about the money that I spent. This may have been the most I've ever spent on a palette that was the most disappointing. So, not like overall disappointing, but for the money. Most of the expensive palettes I've ever bought, I 100% could justify buying it because it performed really well. So this is the second shade, and it's very pretty. It actually reminds me a lot of like a Terra Moon shadow. I'm going to hold it up so we can see at the same time. It's very pretty. Yeah, that's very pretty. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of some of the Cleona and Terra Moon. But this one here, that really bothers me. It just bothers me. In person, it probably looks a little bit better than it does on camera, but that's the problem, is that the base shadow is showing through too much. There's not enough multichrome on top, so it just looks strange. Okay, and then there's this gorgeous emerald jewel tone green, and I am just praying that this one, see, it shifts to two different greens, but it also shifts to blue and teal, like a dark blue and teal. Okay, let's just take a look here together. That's beautiful. And it keeps going. I like to see how far a shadow will go there. And then you can even see it sheared out. But yeah, that one's beautiful. Okay, it might just be that first one that has me concerned. That's really gorgeous. And those two together are going to look supreme. Okay, this one is like a really light blue, and it looks like it has a yellow pink shift to it. Oh, yeah. That's gorgeous. I like that too. Okay, okay. We're looking up, guys. We're looking up. But I might reach out to Lethal on that red one. I don't know. We'll see once we get it on the eye. I have to really make sure not to prejudge before trying it on the eye, but it does concern me, of course. Oh, these gorgeous. Okay, this one looks to be pink, blue, green, yellow, some purple in it. So multi-chrome. Lots of colors in it. Okay. For as many colors, it does shift really well on the hand, but it's pretty sheer. I don't know about that. It's pretty sheer. I mean, you could probably build it up some, but I can still see my hand underneath the shadow. It's pretty though. It just doesn't seem to be as solid in color as these are though. So I don't want a topper with like I'm going to be pretty harsh on this palette because it was so expensive. And I know what they're doing is they're just trying to charge like Cleona would do for per shade and then put it in a palette. But I mean, the palette is just a, you know, basic palette. It does have a little bit of multi-chrome shift to it, but I know that these are not very expensive at all. It does have the poke out back on it, and they are magnetic, so you can pull them out and put them in something else. So what they're saying is that we did not spend any money on the packaging. All of the money is in these shadows. I'm thinking about how much did I spend on this palette, and are these shadows going to hold up to the price that I paid? If they're sheer and this, like this one here, that's just kind of wonky, I mean, these are beautiful, but I still wouldn't pay the price for those three. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. I know, but I'm going to give you thoughts as we go here. And then this one is a pink shade, pink, and it has kind of a yellow shift to it. I see greens. Let's just swatch it next to this one and see if it does better. Ooh, even lighter. Let me give it another good swipe. Yeah, I mean, I built up the pink. Okay, but still more sheer than these other three. So this one is, I love this color. It's like a yellow, green, gold shift. I'm not a big gold fan, but I love a gold that has kind of a antique look to it or a green shift to it. I love those kind of golds. Okay. Yeah, it has a green shift to it. You can see it better. Let's see if we can get it to catch. Yeah, you can kind of see the green shift there. It's kind of hard in the camera, but you're seeing that pink one shift too. Let me go like that. So you won't see it that much on camera. I do see it quite a bit. This one is less sheer as these two. So this one here would be more into this category over here. And then this one is like a white shade and it shifts pink and purple. It's very pretty. Yeah, you can see that one shift. But yeah. I would say this one is less sheer also than these two here. And then the last shade, let's see where we can pop that on. It looks more like a burgundy, so I'm going to put it next to that first shade that we did, but it looks awfully close to that shade, so it's close, but it's not the same. We should have had a totally different color in there for this. Why would you put two in there? It's so close in color. Because of course, you're not picking it up. There is more pink in that one, but it's so, like, this one should have been a different color. Oh, goodness. So this one's really pretty. I like this one the best out of those two. So, So that's the color story on it. Let's get it on my eyes. You know, if I create a look and I'm just like, oh, I love this look, I might overlook that one shadow, but it really does have me concerned. I don't know if maybe I got a bad shadow because it does look different from the other shadows. It almost looks hard panned. So maybe the formula wasn't just, you know, let me see if I can show you. Do you see how these have like a softness to them? And this is almost like a piece of plastic almost, it looks like. And that's why I wonder if this one got hard panned. I mean, it looks good when I do that, you know, it does. It looks good when I do that. But when you swatch it, it doesn't look the same. But see how this one's soft and this one's more like a, I mean, it's, I guess I could dig into it a little bit. I mean, it looks really good when I do that. Maybe I just need to get it on my eyes and see if it performs differently. See, that just does not look good. That looks like a patchy black. Like, don't put that in a palette that's expensive. Don't. Like, when you have a brand that you really like that, you're like, because Lethal, it does wonderful shadows. So, yeah. So, we're going to get into this look, and I'll come right back. I'm going to put on my eye primer and probably a pair of lashes, because I like to have my lashes on whenever I do my looks. So, I'll be right back. Okay, guys, my eyes are primed, and we are just going to try to use as many of the shadows as we possibly can in this palette. So I am just going to probably go in with that darker shade on the very outer edge of my eye, praying it will not mess up this look. If so, I can always wipe it off and we can start over. So you are zoomed in. I don't like to go all the way in just so that I can show you what I'm doing with the palette and whatnot. But I am going in to this color here. We're gonna take it up on a brush. It's about the same as what the swatch is so far. Kind of just looks like a patchy black, you know? But yeah, there is possibility that I might reach out to them and just say, look, this is what I experienced. This is supposed to be an all multi-chrome palette. And I wonder if I got a bad shadow. I mean, if they have to see this.
To see what I'm talking about, that is not. That is not.
I really do.
And I know that there will be, there is always somebody that will say, well, if you put it over top of a black base, they'll show up more.
Absolutely, they do. But when I spend this kind of money, I'm comparing it to the same amount of money that I would spend for these shadows in Clionadh. And if I don't need a base with Clionadh, which you shouldn't, if you're paying that price, you should not need a base. You should not need something to go up underneath it. It should do everything it needs to do whenever you put it on your eyes. This is like a patchy black. It's really kind of getting to me. Okay, so if this was like a $40 palette, I wouldn't be saying that. I don't think my standards would be as strict, but this, like I said, is the most expensive palette I have bought in my collection. So I want to see it wow me. I just want to see the price that I pay. And you know what? Hey, I don't only do this for me. I bought this, yes. Do I have Clionadh that is amazing at multi-chromes? Yes. I have a huge collection that I've collected over time with Clionadh. Do I need these? No. But what I do it for is so I can buy it. I can show you guys if you're interested in it. If you love it, then you know whether or not you want to spend your money on it. If I have an awful time with it, then you save some money and you can know where else you can spend your money instead of here with this, if it's going to end up being a disaster. But we'll see. I don't think it's going to be a disaster. I think that these other shades are going to perform fine, at least I hope. What I do think is that with 9 pans at this price, I should be wowed for a 9-pan multi-chrome palette. I should. Okay, I'm going to go in with this green here. This is a dense, it looks fluffy, but it is more dense. Okay, yeah, we're going to pull this green into the black because it's not even a black. It's this shade here that's supposed to be like a red, black, orange shift. So I'm just going to pull it over top because that shadow has 0. It barely showed up when I swatched it. It shows up nothing at all on my eye. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go in with this one here, and it shifts to like a green and a pink, and I'm just going to take it on the other side of this brush because we're just going to combine. Oh yeah, that's really, really bright. But honestly, it's not that, now that I'm looking at it, that green that we just put over here, it doesn't really shift on the eye, does it? I mean, a little bit. It's just like to a lighter green a little bit, but not any more than what a regular foiled shimmer would do. This one has a really good shift. It has a green to a pink shift, but it's still not like a humongous, like, wow shift. I don't know. I really am confused at, and I am having to go in multiple times with the brush too to pick up the color. I'm getting better shift over here than I am on this one. That's why I'm trying to add a little bit more pigment, and hopefully this does not crease. Okay, I'm getting it to shift now, but look. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the finger. Do you see, like, there's dark, there's like a blue, there's a green that's almost like a yellow shift too, but then there's a pink almost to a lavender shift. When I look at it, like, it's super bright. That's not what it looks like on my eye. This is just, okay. I'm gonna go into this like green, this gold that has like a gold green shift to it. And just so you know, I went on ahead and, applied with my finger too, because sometimes multi-chromes just look better applied with the finger, and it's just not really making that much of a difference. Even that gold does not shift like it does on my finger. I'm not saying they're not pretty. I mean, that's pretty. But can I do something similar with something in my collection? Probably. That wasn't even multi-chrome. Okay, I'm going to take my finger into this top shade right here, and I'm just going to tap that right over top and try to add a little pizzazz right into the center, because these are just not really shifting the way that a multi-chrome should. Honestly, I thought that they swatched okay. Sometimes you can swatch something and it looks worse in a swatch and it looks really good on the eye. I almost think with these, they swatched better than they do on the eyes, because I can see the skin through it no matter how much I build it up. They're not shifting that much, very little, if any, on the eyes. It's just kind of, it's pretty, but it's not most expensive palette you'll ever purchase kind of shadow. Absolutely not. I could get pretty darn close to this exact same look in my collection for pennies on the dollar to what this is. So I'm going to go in the inner corner with, I'm going to go ahead and take this shade right here in the inner corner, since I did the other shade just right in the center, and that one right in the center really didn't even add that much to it either. I'm not typically this negative, but I really don't know what happened with this palette. This is really pretty in the inner corner. It does have some shift to it. It's pink and blue, and it has like a yellowish tint to it also, like the same yellow that's kind of in there. But so far I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've used 6 of the 9 so far. I probably won't use all of them, but I've used quite a few. And so far, this is the inner corner one. It has been the prettiest that I'm doing right now. The most reflectiveness. And I'm doing a big inner corner because this look needs something. And then I'm going to go in with this one right here, and I'm going to take that halfway on the lower lash line. I'm sorry, I'm really deep in thought because I'm sitting here going, how is this happening? Okay, so, oh, that's pretty. Okay, well, you can wet these, and obviously wetting them does help, but I'm telling you, You should not have to wet a shadow this price. You should not. You should not have to. I have plenty of videos you could watch of me putting together a look with Divina, with Terra Moon, with Cleona, with Chaos, with Adept Cosmetics, and never do you have to wet the shadows to make them pop. These two did perform better wet, so I will continue to wet the bottom lash line like I normally do with every look. So I'm going to wet that first one that I swatched that we had so many problems with, the red and black looking one that just looked like a black matte shadow on the end. I am going to wet that one. We're going to see. I'm going to put that in here, and we're going to see if wetting it gives it any of a difference. I'm kind of digging that first top layer off also. Okay. It does help it. It just looks like black, and then it will shift a little bit in certain lights. See that? Like it's giving just like a little bit of an orange. It's still not worthy of being called a multi-chrome though. It's not. Maybe a duochrome, but not a multi-chrome, and barely even that. If you have to wet them, then that's fine, but you cannot charge this price if that's the case. That's my opinion alone. I don't know how you would test this and say, yes, let's charge the same price as Cleona. I just don't see it. Okay, I'm going to go in with this burgundy red now, because this is a shade that I have not used yet, and we're going to spray that and put it and connect the two underneath there. And then I only have one shade left that I have not used, and I might try to use that in the upper part of my brow, and then also maybe as a highlighter, because they are pretty sheer, you know, into the shadow a little bit, so there I am getting fallout, but that's typical of me because I like to go in ham. I'll probably go back in and bring that pink back over on top too. Combine the two. And I keep looking up here because it's a little easier whenever I'm going underneath. Okay, and now I'm going to go back into that pink because that really just, it's not shifting that much. I mean, a little bit, but it just kind of looks dark and grungy, and it just doesn't really shift much. So I'm going to go back into that pink, and I'm going to wet that again and combine it back over and try to lighten that up some. And pretty much I'm covering the red. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to clean up my face. I'm going to finish out this look, and we'll talk about what I used off camera, and we'll go over my final thoughts on this palette. I hope to see you there. Okay, guys, this is my final look. I like how the look turned out. I'm not saying it's a bad look. I think there's issues with these shadows, though. There is issues. And that first one, nothing but a dark black patchy gray mess. None of these really shifting like a multi-chrome or anything like that. And so what I want to do is I want to do some comparison swatches of these shadows up against some other shadows that I found that are super close, better quality, super close to the colors, but like a better opacity, or even some that are less expensive. I think that we're toting a line for calling these multi-chromes. Some of these are barely duochromes. And so I would have to honestly say that I am pretty disappointed with this. Okay, guys, so I did the swatches, and the one that is closest to my hand is the Curst Kosmetics, and the Curst Kosmetics is named Black Magic, and that is the first swatch closest to my hand. They have this in a pressed shadow, and they also have it in a loose form. The second one in from my hand is a Terra Moon shadow. The Terra Moon shadow is called Blood Moon. It is in a pressed form. And then the one closest to me, the third one in from the hand, is the Lethal Cosmetics. On my eye, this did not show any of this red flip. just in the swatch. That's why I think it's so strange that on the eye it did not show it at all. It does have a lot of black base in it, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it just did not show up on the eye. Me personally, I think with the most reflection would probably be the Chaos Cosmetics, and then Terra Moon, and then the Lethal. Chaos Cosmetics is extremely pricey, so you do pay for that multi-chrome for sure. But Terra Moon is pretty reasonable. Okay, we'll go on to the next set of swatches. This is the second set of swatches, and there are some in here that are going to flip a different color, but I just wanted to show what it looks like compared to other ones that are kind of flipping the same color. Like at some point they all show some kind of orange like that there, and then see the ones that are closer to my hand, how many times they flip a different color as I turn. That is a multi-chrome. This one here that's closest to me, which is this one right here, not really. Not much of anything, no matter what direction I'm going. But do you see all the other ones? And I'll tell you what ones they are here in a minute. But wow, you know, like it's a huge difference. Multi-chromes is kind of my thing. I love multi-chromes. And so I knew right away whenever I saw this palette that I was going to be a little bit disappointed, or a lot disappointed because of the price. I think that for the price, if it's not like the one that's closest to my hand flipping around, then you can't call it a multi-chrome. And you should not be paying the premium price that I paid for the Lethal. You know, it shouldn't happen. Do you see the orange, the yellow, the gold, the greens, the blues? That's a multi-chrome. Now I am going to go ahead and start to tell you what is what. The one that is the closest to my hand down here, that one is the Danessa Myricks Lightwork 3 palette, and that is the shade Gaia. It is a beautiful shade, and now that was my most expensive palette that I had purchased up until I got the Lethal one. The Lethal one was more expensive than the Danessa Myricks palette that had 8 eyeshadows in it, and it had 4 large highlighter pans in it. And that was my most expensive palette until I bought the Lethal one. Okay, and then the next one, the second one in closest to the hand there, the one would be the Adept out of the Codain palette, and that is shade AC127. Third one in from the hand, that one there is a Leona, and that is in the shade Weld. The fourth one in from the hand is from the Unearthly Cosmetics palette, Don't Be Jelly, and that's in DBJ5. And you see that fourth one there, it does have a purple flip where the Adept does not. It's more orange to gold flip. But I wanted to put in some other flips in there just to be able to see like the different colors and how they perform and how a multi-chrome should look. Because honestly, this is barely a duochrome. Okay, so the fifth one in is a Terra Moon shadow in Smolder. The sixth one in is a Divina shadow in Paralucia. Again, another purplish flip. And then the eighth one in is Sandblast, which is right there. Let me just get out my tool here. Here we can do that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I figured this is easier. So this one here would be the Leona Sandblast, and then this one here is the Lethal. You can see a little bit of a flip there, but it's not a whole lot. And that is in Event Horizon. That is the second set. We'll move on to the third. Okay guys, this is the third set, and starting with the one that is furthest away by my hand here. This is an unknown shade. It looks beautiful, but one of my pet peeves is when companies do not put the name of the shadow and the name of the company on the bottom of the shadow pan. Because you know what? I'm going to put it in a magnetic palette and I'm never going to be able to tell anybody where this beautiful shadow came from. Okay, and then the second one here, that one there is Adept AC125. The third one in here is Divina Melchetti. The fourth one in right there, that one is Cleona's Embroidery. The fifth one here is Divina Parathenos. The sixth one in right here, that would be Cleona Gargoyle. The seventh one in would be Divina Exosphere. The eighth one here would be Cleona Trefoil. And then this one is the Adept Nebula. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, this is where it starts to get really upsetting to me. I'm going to talk a little bit before I start going into the shades. But all of these shades were 1 to 2 swipes except for Adept. Adept, I belt up at least 5 to 6 times. The Adept one is right here on the end. This is not a multi-chrome. It's barely a duochrome and borderline on just a shimmer. And you just cannot say that it's an all multi-chrome palette. Like, it's almost see-through still after building it up at least 4, 5, 6 times, somewhere around there. I just kept swiping until I got enough color to show. But all these other ones are 1 to 2 swipes. And really the second swipe was just to finish out the bottom of the swatch. So, of course, different flips. I'll start one on the hand. I gave a little bonus one down here. This is the Nessa Myrick Lightworks 3 palette, and that is in shade Soul. The next one in would be an Adept palette, the Codain palette, and that is the Codain shade. The next one in, I just kind of threw in there because it was a little bit more see-through like this one here, just to compare. And that one is the Clarity out of the So Mermazing palette, and that is the shade Don't Be Selfish. And then the next one in is this one here. That's Divina in Phenomenon. The next one in right there, that shade is the Terra Moon in Titan. And then the next one in is a Cleona, and that one is in Weathered. The next one in is a Divina in Gumballs. The next one in is Cleona in Vermeil. The next one is Cleona in Chalice. And then the next one in is Cleona Ochre. And then the last one is Lethal FRB. Just so disappointing on this one. Makes me very sad. Okay, on to the next one. So yes, there's different shades in here, but I just want to show how many different brands there is that have just that shift to them, and in comparison to what this palette has. This one here on the end is Goddard Cosmetics, and that is in the So Mermazing palette, and that one is the shade Beach Please. It has purples, greens, blues. Then the next one over is Glam Shop in the Laguna palette, and that is this one right here, and that is shade PRZYPRYW. This one here is out of the Unearthly Cosmetics Don't Be Jelly palette, and that is DBJ4. The fourth shade in is another Unearthly in the All I Ever Wanted palette, and that is shade Just Landing. The fifth one in is Nessa Myrick's out of the Lightwork 3 palette, and that one is Martian. Then we have this one here, and that is a Terra Moon in Half Moon. The next one is a Divina, and that is in Everlasting Gobstopper. And then this one here is a Divina, and that shade name is Nerds. And this one here, this one's so gorgeous. Love this shade so much. And that is Terra Moon in the Cosmos. And then on the end is the Adept. Pretty see-through. Again, 1 to 2 swatches. This one took multiple swatches. Lethal in Genesis. On to the next. Okay, guys. This is another one that bothers me pretty bad. You know, if you have a multi-chrome palette and you have these shades in it, it's not that bad. That's not a bad deal. But this here is so sheer. This one here is the Adept. It's so sheer. It's not even, some of these are highlighters, and it's not even as bright as some highlighters. Let's just start on the end. This is from the Unearthly Cosmetics in the All I Ever Wanted palette, and that is shade Uranus. And then the second one in is a Glam Shop highlighter, and that is in Jarzinoka. The third one in is Pat McGrath in Astral White, and then we have Divina in Shuggies. This one is Gourmande Girls in That Time of Year palette in Twinkling Lights. And then on the end is the Lethal Cosmetics, and the name of that one is Ceres. On to the next. Okay, this one's going to be kind of quick because I really didn't find too many that matched up with the shade. You can't really see it too much either. It's pink and then it shifts to a green. And so this has a little bit different colors in it because they're actual multichrome. So they have some green shift to them, but they also have like purples and pinks and a little bit of light blue in some. And so you actually get a multitude of colors. This one here shifts green and pink. So we'll start down here, and this one here is Glam Shop eyeshadow in Laser. Then we have Cleona in Carving, and then we have Lethal in Retrograde. Okay. On to the next. So this one here, again, pretty disappointing for me. This one here's the Lethal, and these are pink to like a gold shift, except for down here on the end. This one has multiple colors that pulls in some greens and stuff like that too, but it is still a pink overall. This one is almost like it just has tons of colors in it. But these are all pink gold shifts. This one is more of a cool tone pink, so I put that out on the end, but this one just is, I just don't get anything out of it really. So here on the end here is Cleona Kaleidoscope, and then we have Terra Moon in Veil Nebula, Touch of Glam in Twisted Words 2, and then we have this one here that is Cleona Embossed, and then we have Lethal Proximia. All right, on to the next. Okay, this is the last one, and I'm just sorry, this is not a multi-chrome. It's just not. It's not a multi-chrome. Okay, but let's start on the end here. This one is from Gourmande Girls in That Time of Year palette. That is the shade The Feels. The next one in is the Odin's Eye palette in Soul Mane, and that is the shade Soldendig. The third one in is Danessa Myricks Lightwork 3 palette, and that is in Polaris. Now that does have a cream base to it. This one here is Terra Moon Celine Cleona here in Spectrum, and then the Lethal Cosmetics in Parallax, and that is the swatches. Now I just want to let you know that I'm not doing this to bash Lethal. I just want people to know that when you're spending your money, this is extremely, extremely expensive palette, the most expensive palette that I own. And I own Pat McGrath and Danessa Myricks, and I have to let you know before you go and spend your money. The other reason is because always whenever I do these videos, I'm going to have a lot of different opinions out there. And so everybody's going to have a different opinion. I wasn't gifted this. I wasn't given this to review. I bought this out of my own money. So I just wanted to let you guys know, as I always do, I just want to be able to show you the difference. So now I'll leave the ball in your guys' court, and you guys can determine if this is a palette that you guys are interested in. I mean, like, is this a pretty eye look? Absolutely. Could I duplicate this with the palettes that I already own? Absolutely. Or do I have some shadows in my collection that outbeat these? Absolutely. These are, I'm hard pressed to call them multi-chromes. And some of them I don't even think are duochromes. So it's not good. Tell me what you guys think down below. Did you pick up this palette? Were you thinking about picking up this palette? What do you think now that you've seen how it performs? Could we put it on a black base and make these shadows shine? Probably so. But should we have to? Absolutely not. As you saw in the swatches, there's other brands where you don't have to do that. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys all have a blessed day. Take care. Bye-bye.
I gave you my heart.